Hey everybody, we are back doing another little quick Stata tutorial. This time, we just want to look at some of the options that are out there to easily export your Stata output into a format where you can explain what you see. So basically we're thinking of writing reports, doing homework in an econometrics class that's going to be in a readable format. So we're thinking formatting Stata output into, say, Microsoft Word. All of this obviously works, say, for a Google document as well. So we're just going to look at a couple issues here. The obvious is just, hey, what if you want to just copy and paste what you see in Stata into Word? We'll see some easy ways to get that formatted so it looks nice, and your teacher or your boss will be happy with the output. The other option is just doing a screen grab or using the Windows snipping tool to take exactly what you see in Stata and put it into another document. Another issue when we do that is we want to make sure we format the background in Stata so it matches what you want to see in Word. So there's some common problems I've seen with that that we'll take a quick look at. And we'll take a real quick look at using the estimate out or est out command in Stata to get nicely formatted tables prior to exporting. And then another common way that we kind of export our output from Stata is using a log file. We'll look at how to do that and some of the things we want to avoid and where that log file is really going to be most useful. So as always, we're going to need some data to play around with here. So we'll go back to our one of our easy online depositories of example data sets. So again, this is the Boston College data site that uses example files from the Wooldridge Econometrics textbook. And again, just purely for example purposes, but you can also play around with this. This is a data set called Crime 4 that has county level panel data, so across different time periods. And we'll look at maybe trying to predict the crime rate as a function of average sentencing, police per capita, and, say, population density. Okay, so the nice thing, of course, is once we have Stata opened up, once it's installed, right, we can use that bcuse command, right? So if you haven't used this before, right, we would go ssc install bcuse, and it should tell me I already have that installed, so I'm good to go, but now you are as well. Then we can go ahead and call that up. So bc use crime 4 will drop that data set right into Stata 4. So here's all the variables that we're going to be using. And again, just for the sake of example, say we are running that regression of crime rate as a function of average sentencing, police per capita, and population density. And of course the goal is to take this output and put it into a format that your teacher, your boss, your readers can easily understand. Okay. And my Stata is extra slow today. There it is. So let's go ahead and open up just an empty Word file here. And again, we're just thinking about, okay, this is going to be my report. Right? And you would say, my report is about blah, 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 and here is my first regression. And then we want to put that down here, right? So we go back into Stata and we'd say, well, this is easy enough, right? So we're just going to copy the full regression output. So select Control-C, flip back over to Word, and Control-V, and there it is. Here it is. And then you move on to the next one, you turn it in, and your teacher, right, your reader is going to say, what the heck is this? This is a mess, right? So, and I've been guilty of all of this in the past, right? So you might just go with this and just say that's good enough. That's not going to go over too well. Or you can easily recognize that this needs to be formatted, right? So you can spend a half an hour, tabbing the text to get it to line up. But the secret, of course, is in your choice of font, right? So if we select the text from Stata, and go up to our font, I have it already here. The most recently used font is going to be Courier New, because that is the Stata font, right? So you choose that. That looks a little bit more like what you see in Stata, but obviously it's not formatted quite right. But if we bring down that text size, say to 9 or 10, or expand out the margins, now it snaps to that grid and it looks like what you see in your Stata output. The only other thing we might want to do is adjust the line spacing, so it's already single space, and then remove the space after the paragraph, and there we have it. We also have our little solid line down below. We might want to get rid of that. That's just kind of the default how it comes into Word, and there we have it. So that's totally fine when you want to copy and paste that full Stata output from tables. Just do it in Courier New font, size 9 or 10, and it'll snap right to that grid. Obviously, the other type of output that we're going to see from Stata would be our graphs, right? So say we did a scatter plot between, say, crime rate and average sentencing, and there does seem to be maybe a somewhat nonlinear negative relationship here, and we could obviously format that, edit the graph, change the text, get it to look exactly like we want it to. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But if we just, with the graph open, just Control-C, flip back over to Word, Control-V, and there it is. So you don't have to do anything to the graph. You can obviously size it. You can put multiple graphs together. Again, that's another topic. Do that in Stata. But that's going to be easy enough, right? So the other kind of obvious option for getting output from Stata into another document is the snipping tool. So if you're using a Mac, right, this would be your Command-Shift-4 option. In Windows, it's the snipping tool, right? So my other most commonly used option. So once we bring that up, you just select the area that you want to take over. It opens it up as a little picture. Control-C right from there, back to Word, Control-V, and obviously we can't edit that text, right? We could draw on that if we needed to, but that's, again, the full Stata output translated over. And here's where it's worth going back into Stata here, and notice that my Stata background here is all white, right? So when I do a screen grab, it's going to match what we see in Word or Google Docs. But sometimes you're going to see Stata that has a different color background, right? And we can easily change that, right? So what I see a lot is if we go to Edit, Preferences, General Preferences, now we see our background scheme here. So I have the standard scheme, so this gives us the different text colors for different types of output, and the background is white. I see a lot of this classic scheme, and if I apply that here, you'll see what the issue is, right? So if I do a screen grab here, it's going to take that black background, and it's going to look really funky, and it's going to use up all of the ink when you start to print all of this out. So if this is what your Stata background looks like, before you do any of those screen grabs, I would change it, right? So go, again, to Edit, Preferences, General Preferences, and just go to the standard background. It does look kind of cool with the black background. And if you never do those screen grabs or snipping options, that's going to be totally fine. Okay, one last thing real quick here is that I also see a lot of Stata output presented as a report in the form of a log file. So the log file is really useful, really important, but not for this application, right? So let's take a look at it. So if we go up here to the top of our Stata menu, you're going to see this little button here that says log, right? Begin, close, suspend, resume. And if you go ahead and click on that, it's basically going to do a file open option. And you're going to want to save this somewhere where you can remember it. So I'll save it in my Econ 320 folder here. And I'll just call this example 1 with an E. Okay, so that creates this new file. So what is a log file? Well, basically what it does is it keeps a record of every command that you type and every output that you see in Stata. It basically just records in the form of basically a text file everything that you have in your Stata session. Right? So once I open that log file, everything I do after that, the output and the commands will be placed just as I see them here into that log file. So if I go back and rerun my regression, for example, and then I go find that log file, here we are, example 1, open it up, well, there it is. There's my command, there's my output. Totally fine, right? And what you can also do on top of that is record text, right? So if you're doing this, again, in the context of a report, of a problem set that you're turning in, right? If you put an asterisk in the command line, everything after that will not be read as a command, but will be recorded as text in your log file, right? So this is my output. So Stata doesn't do anything with that, but if we reopen our log file, it's been saved, right? So the problem with that is you're going to be giving kind of too much information here, right? So everything that you do is going to be put into this context, and most people really prefer to see more of a condensed version of that output. So what I recommend is, before you do anything, open up a log file, record everything that you do, but as you're going, copy and paste, snip that output from Stata into that Word file, so you can really write up your conclusions, your analysis in a nice format. The one thing I forgot to mention again was the output tables, right? And again, there's a lot more to this, but if you don't necessarily want to record all of this output, right? So your reader doesn't probably need to know the mean, right, sum of squares, etc. Doesn't necessarily need to look at the standard errors and the p-values and the confidence intervals, right? Kind of too much information, so that we can use that est_out command. So again, this is not part of the standard Stata package. So if you haven't used it before, again, you would go ssc install ESTOUT. Again, I've already got it installed, and it should tell me that. So type in that command, you'll have it as well. And now say we have multiple regressions, right? So say we'll call this our full model regression 1. So as a post estimation command, I can type in ESTSTO, and I'll call that regression 1. Then I might rerun my model without, say, population density. And we're going to call this regression 2. So estimate store, ESTSTO, regression 2. And then I can type in ESTOUT, est_out, regression 1, regression 2. And there you have it. So these are the coefficients, the slope coefficients from each regression. So this is kind of the absolute bare minimum information that you would want to portray. Kind of my typical way of doing this, right? I would use the option cells, and then in parentheses, B, and then in parentheses inside the parentheses, star, so it'll give us our asterisks indicating the level of significance. And then we might want to throw in the standard error as well. Again, lots of different options here. You could do obviously the p-value, the t-stat. We might want to add in the r-squareds. All of those options are available. And then you can take this snippet, copy and paste it just like we talked about. Okay, so those are just some of the options to get a nice, well-formatted Word file with the information you need. Not a lot of information that you don't. Hope you found it helpful. Put any questions you have in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.